day now. You mean I've lost count of the amount of times Russia, China, and Iran were on the verge of collapse. Every fucking day. Oh, they're on the verge of collapse any fucking day now. Stupid. But yeah, it is what it is. There's not going to be a thing. Oh, hold on, another ad. Fuck you, Google. All right. Number 4. Who will win the battle of the woke right, i.e., between liberals and the real right? So what's going to happen is, in my opinion, is the Democrats are going to take advantage of the fact that Trump is compromised. Trump is siding with the tech bros. He's siding with the H-1B visas. He's siding against the American workers and the American people. And the left is going to come in like the good parent. Like, oh, daddy promised you something and daddy didn't do it. Oh, don't worry, mommy's here. And the Democrats are going to start spewing more populist messaging. And they're going to capture a lot of Trump's base. The Trump base that wants jobs and wants, instead of pumping America full of, all this shit. Now, the irony is the Democrats are going to do exactly what Trump did as soon as they're elected. If you elect the Democrats in 2026, 2028, and all that bullshit, they're not going to stop the immigration. They're not going to give a fuck about the workers. It's all bullshit. It's good cop, bad cop. They're going to switch the role. Trump is going to be the bad cop, and then the Democrats are going to be the good cop. And they're going to sell you, like, they're going to rehash Trump's messaging from 2016, repackage it as some type of leftist populism, and they're going to get you to, like, eat the rich. And that's what's going on. And that's the idea that this woke right, they're trying to conflate nationalism with wokeness to try to excuse their own, fucking anti-nationalist, anti-white, anti-male bullshit. And you have a lot of basically Zionist Jews in the Republican Party who are spearheading this to try to split Trump's base to get them to go to the left. And meanwhile, they're pressuring Trump to move more into the oligarchic kind of elite and get away from populism, or they're going to kill him. So it is what it is. It is. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, the system is just hopelessly corrupt at this point. This is why I have no faith in the American right or the Republicans or anybody to fix the system. It's just so far beyond gone. Our best chance is for Russia and China to basically destroy the empire from without, cause a hyperinflationary collapse in the Civil War, and then hopefully the good guys win. That's kind of our best bet at this point. If you're hoping that the regime wins and somehow Trump and the Zionists are the good guys because they stop the tranny shit, I don't know what to tell you. I hopefully we're bunkmates in the gulag together. Hopefully our names are together on the fucking, the kill list. That's the most retarded shit ever. All right. Number 5. What will the left take following the disaster?
I don't get it. What do you want with the tranny shit? What does he have against trans? I mean, why do you care about trans? Jesus.
Or together on the fucking, the how Trump and the Zionists are the good guys because they hyperinflationary collapse in the Civil War, and then hopefully the good guys win. That's kind of our best bet at this point. If you're hoping that the regime wins and somehow Trump and the Zionists are the good guys because they stop the tranny shit.
The tranny shit? What?
I don't know what to tell you. I hopefully we're bunkmates in the gulag together. Hopefully our names are together on the fucking, the kill list. That's the most retarded shit ever. All right. Number 5. What will the left take following the disastrous Kamala Harris campaign and woke being put away? And again, I kind of already talked about this. They're going to co-opt the populist messaging, but they're going to do it from a leftist perspective. It's going to be anti-capitalism, anti-rich, but it's going to be pro-worker. They're going to go back to the old Marxist class struggle, which is going to play. They already have the book. They have the book. It's already been written. And because Trump has abandoned the American worker and he's embracing that elite kind of corrupt capitalist bullshit, it literally makes the case for them. Now, the fact that he's doing it because they're making him do it, that doesn't matter. It just shows you that like you can't fix the system from within. And had Trump basically pushed back, now, okay, I will give Trump, he hasn't assumed office yet. He hasn't done anything yet. I will reserve final judgment until he's actually in office, until he actually gets his people, confirmed, and he actually can govern. I will withhold final judgment until then. It's not looking good. I foresee a lot of disappointment and betrayal, but there's a greater than zero chance that if you believe hard enough and if you clap, that maybe, just maybe, Trump is playing 4D chess, that the QAnon will be vindicated, and this is all part of the plan. He's just lying low, pretending to give the regime what they want, pretending to be a giant Israeli war hawk, pretending to embrace massive immigration from India. But as soon as he's actually president, as soon as he gets his people in place, then he's going to drain the swamp. Then he's going to start arresting everyone. Then he's going to fix everything. But he has to get in office first. He has to get his people confirmed first. He has to basically position them before he can, give the signal and announce the reformist, coup from within. Is that likely? No. Is that just massive cope? Yes. But you never know. It could happen. You gotta believe.
So TFM is beginning to theorize that maybe Trump is an actual person and not a puppet, because previously Trump was just a puppet. Everybody's a puppet. Apparently somebody else is running the world. Trump is just a puppet. But now he's beginning to talk almost like a human, almost like a normal person, that Trump is functioning. Trump was elected. It's like everything else he said before, he forgot. TFM. Interesting.
Just like Parappa the Rapper said. But I'm not expecting that. That's absurd. But if that happens, I will be over the moon with happiness. Because frankly, we're headed for nuclear war. Because the regime actually thinks they could win a nuclear war. And as they lose, as they're they got one W in Syria through bribery, and that's gonna be their only W. They're not gonna get any more W's. So as they get served L after L after L, they're gonna go nuclear because they can't win any other way. And they're gonna hope, hey, just
I don't know what else TFM keeps seeing. He thinks Ukraine, that the United States is in Ukraine at its maximum capacity. I don't see how he sees that. But that's what he sees. I don't know how. I don't know how anyone can see something like that. He's not the only one. I mean, I've heard other talking heads saying the same thing, that the US, it's stretched beyond its capacity. I don't see how. I mean, why would you ever say anything like that? There's like the US hasn't scratched the surface of its ability. I would say the same even before that about Europe. I mean, Europe can aid Ukraine. Europe's aid has not been scratched. I mean, Europe can aid by a lot more. So I don't know why TFM thinks that Russia alone, he thinks, is winning against NATO. How? Okay, whatever.
just because we nuke you doesn't mean you can nuke us. Otherwise, we'll nuke you. And it's like, yeah, that's how mutual.
He thinks the United States or the West wants to go into a nuclear war. How could you think that anyone wants to go into a nuclear war? It's so ridiculous.
Search destruction works, my guy. I guess we're all dead, and then there you go, we all die because the regime wouldn't take the L and wouldn't give up power because they have a doomsday button. And then you have the fucking death cult, these Zionist and Christian, evangelicals who think that like destroying the world is going to bring back the second coming of Jesus. So there's that. But anyway, yeah, we'll see. We shall see how things go. 2025, it's going to be an economic shit show unless the regime decides to continue to bail out everything, continue to cause inflation, and continue to cover it up. But I don't see that happening. They're already downwardly revising. They're already like telling you they're downwardly revising the labor numbers. They're letting inflation rip. People are complaining about the price of eggs again. This isn't being covered up anymore. They're letting it happen because Trump is going to be president. So by definitely Q2, we're talking June. So in order to have a recession, you have to have 2 quarters of economic decline. So Q1 will be April, Q2 will be June. So we're going to have 2 periods of economic.
What is he talking about? Inflation? What inflation? Inflation. Well, at least it's not doxing me anymore. CPI inflation calculator. Publications. Is there any graph? Mm, I don't know how to use this website. Um, CPI data, I'm assuming, is not going to give me anything. That's it. I'm looking for like a long-term graph. There's nothing here. Consumer price index November 0.3. That means 3% per year approximately. That's normal. There's no link. There's no graph. Jesus, how am I supposed to look at this? I don't want the CPI latest. I want something long term. Oh my god. Let's see. CPI chart. I can't use Google because Google doxes me. 12-month percentage change. Let's see, maybe this. um, this is maximum inflation, probably almost 10%. And since then, it's normal. I don't know, and even very low, 2.6. Like it used to be, I would say, on average, about no, was it 1.8? 2012. Look at this. 14 is 0. Yeah, no one cared about inflation. Inflation didn't play a role. 2018, it's 2.9. 2020, 2.5. 2020. And then it started shooting up in 21, right after Biden took office. I think it's when China shut itself down. Like people say that it's because of the money printing, which is government taking out a loan from the Federal Reserve. I don't think that caused it. Trump took out a loan just as big as Biden. Why was it delayed? Like the right? Trump created a deficit, a budget deficit. Uh, he increased the deficit with the bank, the credit. So can't be. I don't think right, there's no correlation to the loan, the government loan. Something happened here and stopped. Something happened. And no one knows what happened. Maybe the money printing, maybe not. I don't know. I need to see more evidence. The evidence is not clear. Anyway, but since let me see, June 23, it's around 3%, a little higher, 3.7. Even we see 2.4, and right now it's 2.7 basically. 12-month percentage change, consumer price index, selected categories not seasonally adjusted. Okay, I don't need a seasonal adjustment. I don't care about a seasonal adjustment. I want the raw data. What happened? This is, oh, look at this. The '08 crisis created a 5.6% inflation and then a deflation, a 2.1% deflation. Interesting. Okay. This might be not just China shutting down, maybe Biden shut down the economy when he moved in. The first thing he did was he shut down the economy even more than Trump. I think so. Maybe Biden and China shutting down. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what he's talking about. But TFM says that it's all manipulated. Everything is manipulated.
economic decline. We're going to be officially in recession, and the market will probably crash before then. But what's going to really cause the market to
He keeps predicting a crash. He's one of those that keep predicting a crash for years. He can predict a crash for years. And finally, when there is a crash, he claims, "Oh, yeah, sure, that's what I predicted," which is nonsensical. I mean,
crash is there's going to be the event. Like I said, the event will happen, and then people are going to buy the dip, expecting bailouts and stimmy checks. And when they're told there aren't going to be bailouts and stimmy checks, that's when the real crash happens. That's when everything goes to shit. That's when the fun. That's when the hilarity ensues. But we'll see. I can't see the future. I can just I can ask myself what would I do if I were them. I can understand economic fundamentals, and I can just kind of look forward and look for some type of confirming evidence of what I think is going to happen. But
he doesn't follow the fundamentals. He follows charts. He makes fun of people following charts, but he follows charts. He says just that other people's charts don't go back as far as his. He uses charts that go to the 70s. Okay, but he follows charts. He doesn't use fundamentals. He doesn't analyze from first principles.
it's an ever-changing development. I might learn something next week that changes my perspective entirely. So,
and he's always listening and hearing rumors. Oh, there's a rumor this, there's a rumor that. He never quotes sources. It's always rumors.
take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. All right. So,
or his sources themselves don't have sources. It's like it's all rumors. It's all hearsay.
Shogun, you've been quiet this whole show. Is there anything you have to say or you want to talk about?
Well, you pretty much already said things that I would have brought up anyway, besides the whole H-1B visa thing, where it was Elon Musk. So he essentially, over the past 4 years, had steadily laying off more and more American workers. And he laid off roughly like 2,600, I believe. And then they were all replaced by H-1B visas. And there's some people that still love to praise Elon Musk, like he's our guy. He's going to do what's right. He's doing what's best for America. And then there's some people that think that the legal immigrant H-1B visas, they're more conservative. So it's a net benefit to America because they'll vote Republican.
Yeah,
which you've already debunked that. So
those people are retarded. Those people are fucking retarded. Now, I saw somebody share something about how there was a study that showed like the children of H-1B visas do better on math and science and whatever. And I'm like, first of all, those were
arguing from first principles. The notion that bringing in foreign workers makes sense, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, why would you need to bring in foreign workers? It doesn't make any sense. Like, does China bring in foreign workers? No. I don't think anyone, like, China manages just fine with like a double or triple economic growth rate than the US without bringing in foreign workers. It's because China has less restrictions on their economy. That's all we need. We just need to have less restrictions on the economy. That's what Musk promised originally. The Doge. He promised a government efficiency, reduce all the restrictions. That's what he promised. But at one point, suddenly it's like he gave up and he just wants instead of releasing the economy from the government fangs, he wants to just bring in foreign workers. Okay, so what's the point of voting for Trump if you're just going to replace us? You're just going to replace Americans. What's the point?
for Chinese children, by the way. So prior to the rise of BRICS, so if you go back like 5-10 years, most H-1B visas were like Chinese. The Chinese have an average IQ of 104, and they're really good.
It doesn't matter what the IQ is. I don't care about the IQ. Like, all humans are nominally the same. And it doesn't matter, right? It's not like we're bringing in foreign workers and suddenly the growth rate of the economy rises, right? No one is expecting the growth rate of the economy to change. The economy grows at a constant rate no matter what happens. And that's because the economy is constrained by legislature. That's what's constraining the economy. The economy is constrained by zoning rules, by regulations, by laws. Not because the American people don't want to work or are not smart enough. That's not what is constraining the economy. The American people are the same as the Chinese. The Chinese used to be the poorest on the planet by far. And then one day their economy was released from the grips of communism, and then their economy started functioning, and they started growing at basically 10% year over year. Why is China growing at 10%? Well, it's because they released the economy from the constraints, from government constraints. Okay, that's it. That's all you need to do. The Chinese are the same as Americans. There's no difference. Why is Indian economy so poor? Right? These Indians are supposed to have a higher IQ than Americans. When they come to America, they do much better than the normal Americans. So why isn't India doing well? Well, because it has nothing to do with the people. It has to do with the system. The Indian system, the Indian economic / political system is dysfunctional. That's the problem. The Chinese economic / political system is much better than the rest of the world, or a lot of the world. That's why they're able to grow faster. Growth is determined only by one thing, only by economic freedom, nothing else. You can bring in all the biggest geniuses from the rest of the galaxy into the US. You're not going to change the growth rate of the economy. Elon Musk, with all his genius, didn't change the growth rate of the economy. The cars that he's producing are just replacing other cars. We don't need more cars either way. His rockets are just replacing other rockets. He's not creating, he's not changing, right? At the end of the day, the GDP and the GDP per capita is not changing because of Elon Musk or because of any geniuses or H-1B visas. The growth rate of the economy is only determined by how free the economy is. That's it. You can basically see it from this graph. All right. So GDP per capita, the quality of life, is only determined by economic freedom. That's it. You don't need anything else. You can imagine as you release the economy, make it more free, you increase the GDP per capita. That's it. That's the only way to change economic growth.
Good at math. They're really good at like building shit. They're smart cookies. In fact,
It doesn't matter how smart they are. All it means, if you bring in, then you're just saying, okay, so they're gonna replace you, but nothing nothing changes. Fundamentally, nothing changes. You're not growing the economy faster. You're not growing the population faster. Nothing changes except for you replacing people. That's it. But the quality of life is not changing. You're not helping anyone. It doesn't help anyone on average to bring in illegal, to bring in foreign workers. It doesn't change the economy. It doesn't change the GDP per capita.
saw a picture. It was like the Americans beat the Chinese, math team at like the math.
It doesn't even change the GDP. It's not like, right. You're not. It doesn't. I don't even think it changes the GDP when you bring in foreign workers. when you bring in external population, it's not like the economy can grow faster. The economy is growing as fast as possible right now. It doesn't help to bring in more people. You're just creating pressure on the existing economy. Maybe the economy can grow a little bit faster because of the pressure, but not significantly. The economy right now is at maximum productivity. Bringing in more people is not changing, and you're not creating anything new by bringing in more people. What's changing when you bring in more people? What's changing? It's not like government is going to move faster in allowing you to build more factories. Everything is always going to move slow. Everything is moving at its maximum rate as determined by government. Government is slowing down. Government is determining the rate of growth of the economy. Nothing else. That's the bottleneck. It doesn't help to do anything. Nothing can help in this case because there is a bottleneck. The government is constraining the growth of the economy.
Olympics or something, and the American team was all Chinese. They're basically all Chinese Americans, with American flags on their shirt, but they're all clearly Chinese, not like vaguely Asian, like straight up Chinese. So the Chinese are really good at math. So yes, prior to the rise of BRICS, we imported Chinese as much as we could, and they're excellent workers, and they have strong family values, and they open Chinese food restaurants, and it's great. They give you happy endings.
But you're still replacing Americans. That it doesn't make any sense. What's the benefit? There's no benefit to the average American by being replaced. Obviously, that's not a benefit to an average American to be replaced. That's a disadvantage.
They jerk you off. I mean, who doesn't like Chinese people? But then now we've decided that we have to go to war with China.
I mean, Chinese women are delicious, but I don't need Chinese men.
So we can't import Chinese people for obvious, because they're going to spy for China. Duh. I mean, a lot of the Chinese immigrants were spying for China. That's been well documented. So now that we've declared,
one of five companies has already stated that Chinese immigrants have been stealing their IP. So.
Right. So Chinese immigrants steal, what's it called, corporate espionage. They commit corporate espionage on behalf of China all the time. But the thing is, the Chinese are like, again, they have an average IQ of 104. They're really good at math. They make good engineers. They make good whatever. So up until we declared China to be an adversary, we wanted Chinese immigrants, but now we can't. We can't import Chinese immigrants by the boatload anymore because they're going to be spying for China actively, because we're gearing up for a war with China. We're openly telling China we're going to be at war with them in the next 10 years. We're building military bases all around their border. So so what are we going to do? We have to import some other group that's just as smart as.
So TFM thinks that the West, wants to have war with China. It's not like China seems to be preparing for, world domination. No, of course not. China is defending itself. The West is offensive. China is defensive, of course, because in TFM's universe, everything is upside down.
It's China, and there fucking isn't one. So the average IQ of India is 80. It's fucking 80. That's lower than African Americans.
82, but yes. Or did it change recently?
It's like, no, it's below 80. It's like in the mid 70s. It's like mid to high 70s.
Okay, because last time I looked it up, it was 82.
Are you talking about African Americans? You're talking about African Americans? Or you're talking about Indians?
I'm talking about Indians from India.
No, I looked it up. It was like mid to high 70s. The African American IQ is like in the mid 80s. So I mean,
yeah, so it's now.
Yeah, so like look at African Americans, and now imagine.
This is nonsense. The whole IQ thing doesn't make any sense. Like, they say Africans are on average really dumb, but I've interacted, like, Africans that move to the US are very successful, more successful than, like, Obama. Obama is an example of an African that moved into the United States. His son is the president. So I don't know. And Indians move to the United States. Again, they do very well, much better than average. So this whole thing with IQ, like, IQ is supposed to measure some genetic aptitude, but I don't see it.
People dumber than that. Like, that's India. Like, these people are, now we've had, the quote unquote good Indian immigrants for decades. Like the middle class, the doctors, the pharmacists, the businessmen who come from India from like wealthy, high caste families. And they've been, and I grew up with Indian immigrants all around me. They never bothered anyone. They're fine. They weren't shitting in the street. They weren't raping anyone. They weren't publicly masturbating. It's because the fucking caste system. Like, even though they're all Indian, the caste system effectively turned them into sub-ethnicities, which is kind of bonkers when you think about it from like a Western standpoint, because obviously we never had a caste system. Everybody's kind of fucking everybody. So we basically can split people up by race, but we don't have, like, among white people, for example, you have like your wasps, and you have your honey boo boo trailer trash and you whatever. But we don't really have like a division of castes. You know, you could have like a wasp fall in love with the daughter of a crack whore from the trailer park because she's got big tits, and, you know, marry her and take her and whatever, right? And people do that shit all the time. There is no caste system in America. So we divide by race, but we don't really divide by socioeconomic status when it comes to, like, but in India, they had centuries of caste system where you have these groups only marrying and interbreeding with each other, even though they were the same race. So over time, they evolved into like sub-ethnicities. So the Indians that we've been getting for the past several decades, the ones that open businesses and, you know, like the one Apu from The Simpsons, you know, the kind of Indians that he's modeled after, we didn't have a rape problem with Indians. Like, did you ever hear about any American Indians? I'm not talking about Native Americans, I'm talking about American Indians. You ever hear about like them raping people? No, it wasn't a thing until now. And now we're like scraping the bottom of the barrel.
So according to TFM, some Indians are rapists because they're genetically prone because of the caste system. I don't believe that.
Importing all these Indians because they kind of sort of speak English, even though they really don't. They really don't. Like, that's another thing.
People are incentivized. People commit crime because they have an incentive to commit crime. If you don't punish them, they'll commit a crime.
One of the reasons why we import all these Indians is because they used to be part of the British Empire and they supposedly speak English. But that's only the middle class Indians that speak English. The fucking street shitters don't speak English. They don't even use a toilet. They bathe in the river with dead bodies floating by them. I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah, I saw a video on that. Like, Channel 1 actually featured that in like '98. I remember that. And
yeah,
like, he has some old man in the river. He's like splashing all over his face. He's like, "Come on in, the water's fine."
Yeah, you have people like bathing in the river, and there's like a guy shitting like 2 feet away from him in the river, like upstream from him, and he's like, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. And the thing about India has a very rich culture. Like, they have the Taj Mahal, they're the birthplace of Buddhism, and like they have such a rich. But it wasn't those people. It was like the upper classes. The Buddha was like a prince of India. He wasn't these fucking street shitting rapists. But like, because we only see in terms of race, we just think they're Indian. They're just Indian, you know. Indian. And like, other people tell me that I'm like going too hard on India and I'm obsessed with India and I'm racist and whatever. And it's like, look, my guy who speaks English and is a fucking retard. I'm not talking about you. Like, if I criticize like the honey boo boo trailer trash white people, and you're not a honey boo boo trailer trash white person, I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about all white people. I'm talking about like certain groups. If I talk about like certain groups of whatever group, that doesn't apply to you. Stop like getting all butthurt. Not all Indians are a bunch of public masturbating rapists who fucking shit in the street and like can't speak English. And if you can speak English enough to call me a racist, I'm obviously not talking about you. And here's the funny thing: if you talk to these Indians, they also hate those people. That's why they live in the cities. So they get away from the fucking street shitting, public masturbating rapists. They don't want to be around them either. And I think because we think in terms of race, we just think Indians are bad, Indians suck, because we're seeing like they're sending the dregs to us. You know, as Donald Trump used to say, they're not sending their best because their best are already here. The Indians that were like productive and well-to-do have already come here. So now, but we need to compete with. This is all about competing with China. We need to compete with China. Why do we need to compete with China? Because we're going to go to war with them. Why are we going to go to war with them? Because we have to stop them from overtaking us economically. And so it's because we can't compete with China economically. We're just importing all these street shitting rapists to compete with China in terms of cheap slave labor.
It's not the problem with the rapists. It's the problem that if you want to grow the economy, the only way to grow the economy is free the economy. That's the only way. There is no alternative. You think you're growing the economy by bringing in foreign workers. That's mathematically impossible. Cannot be done. You have a bottleneck. The bottleneck is government. You cannot just skip a bottleneck. That is what is constraining the growth of the economy.
And meanwhile, the American workers, well, fuck you. You have to be unemployed, or I guess serve in the military and go to war for Israel. Those are your options. So it's not just dumb; it's suicidally retarded. And you're pissing everyone off. And the problem is, the parties are going to try to spin this as like, oh, Donald Trump betrayed you, and the Democrats are going to try to like co-opt the Trumpian populist messaging. I really hope they don't fall for it. I really hope people don't actually believe the Democrats are going to be the party of change. I hope they're not that fucking stupid. But we'll.
So TFM is going back to the belief that there's two parties. Like, he already gave up on it. He already, for the longest time, he was talking about how there is a regime. Notice that today he hasn't said the word regime. Really weird how every show he says the regime, the regime, the regime. Suddenly today there's no regime. Really weird.
We'll see. But I have more faith in Putin and Xi causing, you know, the collapse of the empire from without, causing enough economic chaos that revolution becomes, you know, inevitable. I think that pattern, that trend is more likely than the right finding its dick and actually like rising up and doing anything. That's probably not going to happen. But yeah, Trump, and I said this before, it would have been better if Trump were assassinated, because then he would be a symbol. He's just going to be a very disappointing president. Very disappointing, because he's going to be doing what he's told. He's going to be functionally not much better than Biden. Biden basically just did what he was told and ate ice cream and sniff kids. Trump, he might be allowed to make some things. He might be able to. He's going to get his little tariffs in. He might try to do whatever, but he's not going to be. They're not going to let him undermine diversity and immigration, all the shit that is their greatest strength. They're not going to let him undermine that. They're not going to let him, you know, turn the. Like, people are talking about, oh, Trump is going to end birthright citizenship. No, he won't. And if he tries to, a judge will slap it down and say no. And then Trump will go, oh, I tried. The judge said no. So pack the fucking court. Oh, we can't do that. Why can't you? The Democrats were threatening to. Oh, but I just can't. The right can't do things. Only the left can.
but we have to do things within our principles, because then we'd be no better than them if we actually did that.
I'm sure they'll say something along those lines, and everybody will just shrug and go back to losing. Go back to your cut chair and masturbate while your wife gets fucked. Look,
I mean, that's what they've been doing ever since when January 6th happened. Now, there are some people that were saying that, what we should have done was declare martial law, start the military tribunal because they're blocking Trump's border to bring in the National Guard. And he could have used that as his window to take out the trash and drain the swamp. But people are like, oh no, but then that's what the left wants, because then we'll look like Nazis. Like, who cares if you look like a Nazi? The point is that if you win, and they're dead.
Spoiler alert, they're going to call you a Nazi anyway. No matter what, unless you literally change parties and renounce your whiteness or start putting on a cocktail dress and calling yourself Shirley, you're going to be a Nazi. So, okay. And by the way, I saw this happen the last couple of years. Remember a few years ago, they were saying that, loving your country was fascism, and saying America and being white is whatever, like that's fascism. Now I'm seeing pictures of basically people posting pictures of their family, and if the family is white, just like mom and dad and kids, and they're all white, people are like, this is Nazi shit. Like it's a picture of a family. They're like taking pictures. There's no political messaging. It's just a mom and a dad and their kids, and they happen to be a white family, and people are like, oh my god, I'm shaking. It's like Nazi imagery. Like just a white family is now fascism. So if you're a white guy and you have white kids, you're already a Nazi you're a Nazi because you're white and you have a white family. That's all it takes. You're a Nazi. You're already a Nazi just because you're white and you have a white family. All right, so just fucking make peace with it. You're already a Nazi.
Yeah, it's like that scene from Rick and Morty where the Nazi was like, I'm comfortable with being called a Nazi because some of the words that hurt my feelings.
Right. Well, now the problem is because the left has a way of what they do. They can't shut you down for disagreeing with them politically. They find a way to basically twist free speech to be something that's not protected free speech, like incite the court, and you basically overturn all these laws and you fuck their shit. But that would I understand whatever. But the Republicans have the numbers, but do they have the will? Probably not. They're not gonna do shit. But they could theoretically, they could do this, but they're not going to. And that's the biggest tragedy. As far as the MAGA base of Trump, they're gonna be left holding the bag. They're gonna be like the Hoktua people who bought the meme coin and lost all their money because basically it's just a Trump rub. Be wrong. We could all believe in the power of QAnon and 40 chess, and maybe Trump shocks us all, but kind of doubt it. But we'll see. We shall see. All right. So I guess that's that. So we'll turn on the super chats. But let's see. Should I play Path of Exile 2 or should I play Identity 5? What do you think, Shogun? It's really boring, so it's really easy until I get to a boss. Really hard boss 5. Here we go. Okay, let me transfer. Is that good?
Okay.
For like an hour.
We're done.
Sending us there.
I've said this before. There's no land of ranked open. No. All right.
Trump will not shut down the border. There will be no mass deportations. We get both sets of immigrants now, but at least young men will be able to get a job in the military when they get to go fight for Israel.
Yeah, that may be part of the plan. Is they're
Unfortunately, TFM. I mean, a lot of what he says is correct, but unfortunately, a lot of it is also complete and utter nonsense. His hatred of Israel doesn't make any sense. Israel is a free economy in the region. It's a friend of the West, and he hates the West. Terrible. Okay, I think we're done. So we're done with this guy. Let me see. I wanted to watch. What did I want to watch? I wanted to see. The Yaron Brook show. This guy.
Of the readers. On book show, I should put on the video. There we go. That's better. Echo. It's only there. I don't think you're not hearing an echo from me, right? I think we are going to talk China policy to what was it? Immigration. And now healthcare. I mean, at the end of the day, what we will have here, I think, by the time we finish the series, is a blueprint for how to move the U.S. economy, how to move U.S. politics, how to move the U.S. government towards having a rational policy overall. So this is a roadmap for all of that. Maybe we can get transcripts of this and get it all in writing and put it on a book called, Rational Policy for Irrational World. Rational Policy for the world in which we live. So it's going to be a plan. So I will be kind of using the same template I use with immigration and with China policy. I think to some extent I keep making slight changes to it, but generally this is the template. This one is sponsored by a few of you. So a few of you sent money in. Let me also say this. This is a big one. Healthcare in particular. It's like finance. As I said, in finance, it can't be done in one show. And I did try to do every aspect of finance and everything in finance. You can't do healthcare in one show. There's so many dimensions to this. We'll cover a lot, but we can go in depth into any one of these. And I'm not familiar with all the laws and all the regulations and all the complexities associated here. So we're going to take a kind of big picture. We're going to go into more detail on things that I know and understand and think are important. But we need a few shows to do this, and we will be doing more shows on this. So stay tuned. There will be more healthcare shows. This is show number 1. Thank you for those of you who have sponsored the show. Let me just put it out there that if anybody out there wants to sponsor a show on academic education, would be really, really good. Somebody suggested labor laws. Labor laws would be good, although I'd probably have to bring in somebody. No, I mean labor laws. I could do labor laws. And think about anything else any other realms that you might want to me to cover in this way on the show. I mean, we've done one aspect of foreign policy, China. We could do other aspects of foreign policy. We could do the Defense Department. We just do a show on the Defense Department and what that would look like. But yeah, I mean, so basically it's $1,000 a show, but we can aggregate. I think this healthcare show, we had a couple of people do 500 each, and hopefully, if you guys want to do education or one of these others, we can put together, whether it's 250 each or 500 each, or we can put something together to make that happen. So just let me know if there's interest, and we'll organize it. And of course, if you have ideas for other topics, let me know. Environmental regulation would be a pretty good one. I don't think I have anything to add to what Alex publicizes on a regular basis on energy policy. Environmental law would be really good. What would be the government's perspective on environment, and then we could do more on finance, and we will do more in healthcare. So what to do with federal lands? That's easy. That would take 10 minutes. 5, 3 sentences, 2 words. Here you go. Here's what to do with federal lands. Sell them, auction them off to the highest bidder. That's it. That's what I have to say about federal lands. We can talk more about it. We can do a show about that. Anyway, yeah, please let me know what you want. Now, in terms of today's show, you can ask questions. Again, you can ask questions about anything. I will give priority in terms of time to the questions about healthcare. So any questions you have about healthcare policy, comparison to other countries, NHS. I don't know that much about, Switzerland or some of these other countries that have hybrid systems, but I know something about the NHS, a little bit about Canadian system, a little bit about the Israeli system. Those are the international systems I know about. I don't know that much about the other systems, other than a few things I'll say at the beginning of the show here. All right, I think we've kind of summarized it. Yeah, we can do one on gun laws. Whoever puts the money up, that's what we'll do. This is market driven. The Yaron Book Show is very market driven. Whoever puts up the money, that's not you don't get a say in what positions I will take, or what opinions I hold, or what recommendations I make. But in terms of the broad topics, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. All right. So let us start with healthcare. Yes, Super Chat is open. We have a regular goal, and this won't go long just because I have a lot to say. Of course, there might not be any questions, so it's going to be short. And what else did I want to say? Yeah, you get to ask the questions and feel free to ask about anything, but priority will be given to healthcare. All right, so one thing I think everybody can agree about when it comes to healthcare is that it seems that pretty much nobody is happy. Nobody is happy with the system. Now, it might be true that healthcare right now is not a big issue politically. It's not a top priority for.
Do you want to talk about something?
Well, I'm trying to find someone to talk with, and a lot of the people are just retarded.
Well, I mean, sure. We're all human. We all disagree with each other on many things, and we try to win debates. We try to feel, better than the other guy. So, yeah, it's upsetting. I can understand you.
I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that there isn't anyone to speak with who would be intelligent so far.
Okay, but intelligent just means agree with you, or what
no. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'd prefer them to disagree with me. Just talk.
What do you want to talk about?
Like intelligent people. Well, I don't know. It says immigration is bad. I'm presuming you're saying that immigration is bad. Is that right?
Yeah, I feel immigration is a bad. There's no.
Is there anything else that we may disagree on?
Vegan? Are you a vegan?
No. Basically, I'm far right, actually.
Oh, so do you like Hitler?
No, I don't like Hitler.
Do you like Putin?
But I'm far right. No, I don't like him.
So how are you far right?
I'm like a racist liberal, okay? I'm a racist liberal.
Okay, so what do you mean racist? So you hate Jews?
No, look.
Yeah.
Do you know who Richard Spencer is?
Not really.
Okay.
Who is he? Is he the guy that just got arrested in Canada?
No. No, it's a different guy. He came up with the alt-right, the term alt-right.
Okay.
At some point, he was the leader.
Okay. I don't know too much about the alt-right or stuff like that.
Yeah, it's fine.
Tell me, what's your position? Like, I'm trying to figure out what your position is on Jews, on Hitler, on Putin, on
I call myself a right-wing progressive.
Yeah, but what's your position? Tell me your actual position.
I just said I don't like Putin. I don't like Hitler.
No, but
I mean, the Jews are complicated, but the
you're saying
what?
you're saying you are. But tell me your definition. What you call yourself again?
A right-wing progressive?
Okay, so good. So how are you right wing? And what are you right wing?
Well, yeah, sure. So, I believe in eugenics, limited suffrage.
Wait.
I believe in
Hold on.
what?
1 second. So when you say eugenics, what do you mean? You mean like only the smartest, the highest IQ should have children? What do you mean by eugenics?
We should incentivize them, and we should
We.
disincentivize the opposite.
Who's we?
Society.
What, I don't know what that means. Like who? Like. Okay.
Society.
What does that mean? Like you mean government?
What does that mean?
Yeah. I mean.
It could be on the governmental level. It could be on individual level.
So you're saying like there should be government incentives for the highest IQ to have more children instead of the lowest IQ?
Yeah.
How would you do that? Like,
anyways, I think, look, I'm gonna go. I need to make tea or whatever. I wasted a lot of hours on Discord. Yeah, it's been horrendous. I gotta go, sorry.
no problem.
For Trump, it's not top priority. Wasn't top priority for Biden. Since Obamacare, there was some movement to abolish Obamacare, but other than that, there's been very little really excitement and very little emphasis, very little focus on healthcare over the last few administrations. And the system just keeps chugging along. We'll talk about what that means, but it just keeps going, and nobody wants to touch it. And a big part of nobody wants to touch it is everybody knows the complexity of doing anything with healthcare. And more importantly than the complexity for this purpose is the number of pressure groups, the number of people who have an opinion, who have a view, who are going to fight tooth and nail for whatever it is, for their piece of the healthcare pie, if you will. So the amount of pressure group politics here is as bad as probably in finance, and really horrific, much worse than immigration or almost every other topic because of the complexity and the scale of this issue. Right? The scale. While nobody's unhappy with the system, healthcare in the United States is massive. Right? It is a $4 trillion expenditure a year. It constitutes last constituted, I think 2023, 17.6% of GDP. A massive portion of government spending goes to healthcare. Medicare and Medicaid, a huge chunk, about $2 trillion of government expenditures. So in a $28 trillion economy, we spend about $4 trillion. $27 trillion economy, $28 trillion economy, we spend about $4 trillion on healthcare. Think about $4 trillion on healthcare as $90,000 per person. I mean, it's huge. It employs millions of people. It is a massive industry, which nobody's excited about. Nobody is particularly happy with.
I never thought about this. It's almost $100,000 per person per year. Oh my God! Where most individuals don't need healthcare most of their lives. Wow, what a waste!
You hear lots of complaints. It's super expensive, and
it's like every 10 years, it's $1 million. You might as well give each person $1 million every 10 years. Could you imagine that? So if you're 50, here's $5 million. Take care of your own health. Wow. It's like it's 5 houses. What a waste.
GDP, 17.6 is the highest, I think, in the developed world. I don't know in the world, probably in the world, as a percentage of GDP spending on healthcare. And other countries are closer to 12, 13, 14. Nobody even comes close to the 17.6. And yet, the argument is, I'm not saying this is true, but the argument is that outcomes are not that much better. That is, life expectancy, the broadest outcome that people measure, is lower in the United States than most of the developed world. Now, that number's a lot of cheating going on with numbers generally to make different points. Life expectancy in the United States is lower than the rest of the world at birth. And that's because of two things, basically. One is, it is the case that infant mortality of childbirth is higher in the United States than the rest of the developing world. But the big difference in life expectancy at birth is unrelated to healthcare. It's related to drugs, suicide, crime, traffic accidents, which all, as a percentage of the population, are very high in the United States compared to the rest of the world, and are actually the things that cause, did I say drug overdoses? If not, should have drug overdoses, have led to decline in life expectancy. Also say that a big issue here is obesity, which the United States, I mean, UK is pretty bad, but I think the United States is still the most obese country in the world. Maybe the UK is worse. Maybe there are a few other places, but generally it's really, really bad here. So if you take into account all those things that have nothing to do with the delivery of healthcare, they're the ones that have an impact on life expectancy. Interesting fact. Life expectancy of Americans who reach 70 years old. So life expectancy of people who reach 70 years old, higher in the United States than anywhere else in the developed world. So once you can take out all the other factors and just focus on, in a sense, healthcare delivery, we keep people alive really, really well. People always complain that healthcare in the United States is not universal. Not everybody has access to it. Not everybody can afford it. It's because it's so expensive. It's not just expensive at kind of a national account. It's expensive for individuals, and therefore there are people who supposedly can't afford it. And as a consequence, it is not universal. And there are horror stories of people who don't get healthcare in the United States dying. And if you go outside the United States, in the UK and in Europe, everybody believes that basically people are dying in the streets on a regular basis for lack of healthcare in the United States. It's really the amount of mythology that exists in the UK and in Europe about the healthcare system in the US is astounding. Add to that the fact that people get denied health insurance, and people are upset about that. And that, again, there's a huge mythology out there that many people in the US die or do not get treated because they're denied coverage. I got so many stories from my debate in Cambridge where the audience was like, I would have never got treated for this and this in the United States. I was born with this disease. Now I would have never got treated. I was born with this, a handicap, and I would have never got treated because I couldn't afford it, in the United States, which is mostly 99% of it is 99.9%. It's just not true. And then finally, the one big problem that exists with regard to costs, which is real. I mean, the U.S. in many respects is expensive, but we'll get to whether that's real or not. But the one way in which it's really expensive and is that basically healthcare costs are bankrupting the federal budget. In other words, Medicare and Medicaid are unsustainable. Spending on Medicare and Medicaid is just unbelievably expensive, and not sustainable if you look into the future. It something has to give. Is just given the amount of revenue the United States brings in, expensive, it cannot sustain Medicare and Medicaid spending at the rates that they are. So we do have an obesity problem, which is blamed on the healthcare system. We have a service denial problem, which is blamed on what we call health insurance. There is a quality of service. Primarily, people complain about the very little time they get to spend with doctors. Doctors complain about the very little time they have to spend with patients. There's very little, if any, preventive care, or very little of it, and there's very little emphasis on it. Physician compensation has declined in real terms or been stagnant, and the quality of life, in terms of the quality of the enjoyment of the profession, in terms of time with patients, time solving problems of physicians and healthcare people in the healthcare system is down. The system has no real transparency. We don't know how things are going to cost. We don't know exactly what we're consuming, how much we're consuming. There's complete mystery about healthcare costs from the consumer's perspective. So all of these and many other things are real costs, are real problems in the United States, and people are frustrated and people are upset. The insurance premiums, they are paid by primarily the employers. We'll get to that, but they pay a growing portion of it, and it's expensive. And as we'll see, there are all kinds of distortions and perversions that are caused because of the system, the way it's comprised, that just creates uncertainty, angst, and frustration. So what is it about the system as it exists today? What is it about the policy, the healthcare policy in the United States as it is today, that has caused the system to be as frustrating and as upsetting to people as it is? So let's go over kind of the way the healthcare system is structured today and the way this leads to these frustrations. So I think that
I wish I could play it faster. It's so slow. Jesus Christ.
We should start with kind of the way most of us experience the healthcare system. And the way most of us experience the healthcare system.
Why don't they have 3x, 4x, 5x? They could even have 20x. What's the problem? Why only 2x?
Is through the purchase of insurance. And while insurance is not...
Plus, every time there's like a white noise between words, like YouTube can cut that out.
The delivery of healthcare. Insurance is the way we fund healthcare. And
or when he stutters, just cut it out.
Dictates to a large extent what kind of healthcare we actually get. So we need to step back here and talk about what insurance is. Real insurance is something that covers you for rare, unexpected, and significantly costly events. So insurance is a mechanism to protect you from things that are unexpected, unknown. That is, there's a huge amount of uncertainty around when they will happen, if they will happen, and where the cost can be very high. So think about it. What's the probability your house will burn down? It's very low. Do you know when it will happen? No, you can't predict when it will happen. What are the financial consequences of your house burning down? Pretty catastrophic. It's really bad. It's a lot of money. Think about auto insurance. We buy auto insurance not for our regular service. It doesn't cover kind of the 3,000 mile or whatever service. It doesn't cover oil changes. For the most part, it doesn't even cover like little dents and bumps and stuff like that. It covers you really for when you have a significant accident, and the cost can be thousands of dollars. Now, it's not as expensive as a fire burning down your home. The probability is higher that you get into a car accident and your home burns down, and it's less expensive, but it's still relative to the cost of the car, a lot of money. So you buy insurance to cover that. You don't cover the little bumps and the little things, and you don't cover maintenance. Life insurance. You don't know when you're going to die. Dying, let's say when you buy life insurance, typically a good age to buy life insurance is when you start a family and you've got dependents and you want to make sure that if you drop dead, they have some money. And so you want to buy life insurance to cover you from age, I don't know, 30 to 60, something like that. Those 30 years is while you've got a family and they're dependent on you and you want to be able to, if you die, they get $1 million or whatever, you want to be able to cover it. You don't know when it's going to happen. What's the probability you die between 30 and 60? Pretty low. And it's catastrophic. It's catastrophic. And think about business interruption insurance. Think about all kinds of business insurance. Think about maritime insurance. The ship, sinks. Pretty low probability. Uncertainty about it, catastrophic. And yet, health insurance doesn't work that way. And it doesn't work that way because it's really not insurance. It's really not insurance. It's a form of risk pooling. It's a form of redistribution of wealth. But we really should not call it insurance. It doesn't have
Wait, risk pooling is not insurance?
the characteristics of insurance. If I have a cold and I go to the doctor, that's going to cost me $50, maybe $100, maybe $150 if you have a relatively expensive doctor. It's not catastrophic. It's pretty common to get a cold. I get one once a year. Pretty common to get a cold.
But you don't go to the doctor for a common cold.
The flu. And yet, we cover it. And if you have diabetes,
But it's the incentive of the insurance company that you take care of yourself. So they would actually want to incentivize you to get a seasonal blood test and to always upkeep you and maintain you in the best health that you can be. That's their incentive. They don't want you to suffer catastrophic illness and end up costing them a lot.
and you have to get insulin or you have to get diabetes drugs or whatever, and now it's a constant cost forever. Insurance covers it.
It's like when I have car insurance, they install an app, or they ask me to install, or they recommend, or right, they tell me you can install an app on your phone that we can reduce your premium if we can track you and we can see your driving habits. And so this incentivizes me to drive safely, which is good for them, which is why they can reduce my premium, my monthly premium. So I don't think he's right about that. I mean, it is the interest of the health insurance company that I should exercise, that I should eat well, that I should lose weight if I need to, or lose fat.
We cover things. We cover relatively minor, relatively low cost, recurring, expected events.
That's a good thing, but that's up to the insurance company. I would argue that's the interest of the insurance company. That's their interest. That they're free to do it, and that's their choice, and that makes sense.
This insurance, so it's not. And of course, we don't even buy the insurance. We might choose, if our employer has options, we might choose between different health insurance plans. But we're not really buying them. Our employer is buying them. And employers buying them, they're the ones who have a contract with the health insurance. And one of the issues with these insurance policies is they're not ours.
I mean, some people are, self-employed, then they buy them.
So, for example, if you leave a job, you don't have insurance anymore. You're not covered. I mean, there are laws in place that allow you to continue to get COBRA, and the employer, by law, has to contribute towards that COBRA, and COBRA is a continuation of your existing insurance policy for a certain amount of time. But it's not really your insurance policy. The employer has bought it. It covers you, but it's their policy.
What do you mean? I mean, it's still my policy. What do you mean it's their policy? You can join. I don't know.
They pay.
What do you mean they pay? It comes out of your salary. It just comes out of the gross instead of the net. It comes out before taxes. Okay, so depending on how much you make. Let's say if you're making a lot, maybe you're at the 30%, 40% tax bracket. But it's a bracket. I mean, how much is it really costing you? I mean, altogether 30%. So it's a 30% saving if you have a job and a salary.
So
it's not, but you can't really say that the employer is paying for it. It's coming out of your salary.
One of the problems we have is that we don't really have insurance. We call it insurance. It really isn't insurance. We have a third-party system where our employers get us insurance, and then we get to
why does he keep talking about the employer?
Consume healthcare and basically bill it to the insurance company. I mean, this creates all kinds of moral hazards. It creates overconsumption. It creates a system by which we don't care about the cost of insurance. By the way, the cost of insurance has nothing to do with your health. The other thing about insurance is, we've talked about this in the past.
That's a problem.
In fire insurance, the insurance company determines the premium based on, for example, how likely it is that there'll be a fire in your area that your house will be caught up into. So some areas in California have very, very, very high fire insurance because the likelihood of a fire is relatively high. Other places, really cheap because the likelihood of a fire reaching you is very low.
But what I pay for car insurance, they don't really know my history, how bad of a driver I am. And if I'm a really good driver, by how much do they really reduce my monthly payment? I don't think it's significant.
Same with flood insurance and earthquake insurance, very distorted markets. But when they function, where you were, the risk that you would, the risk that you're susceptible to this catastrophe is taken into account in your premium. Health insurance companies don't assess the risk of you receiving a disease. For example, you and your coworker, you might be the same age, but he might be, I don't know, 100 pounds heavier than you. Now, the fact that he's 100 pounds heavier than you makes him susceptible to diabetes. Diabetes makes him susceptible to heart disease, which and even cancer. It makes him susceptible to potentially Alzheimer's at a young age. Insurance company, they don't care. I mean, maybe they care, but the system is not structured to take that into account. None of that is relevant. Indeed, it's illegal.
It's up to them. Oh, it's illegal. That's a problem.
For them to take any of that into account. You might have a gene that makes you more susceptible to certain cancers. They can't take that into account.
That's terrible.
So they're pricing off of a pool where they're basically estimating the relative ages of the people in that pool. But that's really the only, and sex, age and sex are the only parameters they can play with. And they figure some are B, some are not. And they come up with an average price, and then everybody pays, basically, I think there's an age adjustment, but everybody pays a price based on your age. And that's it. So again, not insurance. What we have today in the United States is a mechanism by which we redistribute wealth. We distribute health expenditures from healthy to sick, from young to old. But don't call it insurance. I mean, we call it insurance because that's what everybody calls it, and it's the way it's called. But it is not insurance, not by any financial measure of it. It is a pooling of risk. It's a pooling of risk without, to some extent, a blind pool of risk. And by the way, so now why do we do that? Well, I don't want to get into the entire history of it, but the basic idea is that employers versus employees have an advantage in buying health insurance. If an employer buys health insurance, the health insurance premiums are tax deductible. If you as an individual buy health insurance, your health insurance premiums are not tax deductible. So you have a huge advantage in letting the employer buy the health insurance for you because
I'm not listening. I'm thinking about my debate with this guy that I was just debating. All he could say is, oh, you want to genocide children. You want to genocide children. You want to genocide children. It's like, okay. So he doesn't want to debate. Like, that's not how you debate. That has nothing to do with a debate. Like, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, that's debating a vegan is debating someone that just wants to spread false accusations, just falsely accuse you. That's like whenever you debate a guy that all he does is falsely accuse you. What's the point of interacting with a person like that? False accusation. So that's not a debate. So basically, when I enter my next debate especially with vegans, I don't think it ends up happening. It ends up happening with other debates. People right away want to know about you. Tell me where you live and and then they start accusing you. You're this, you're that. So you need to let them know. Look, if you're going to go into some false accusations or personal accusations, that's going to be the end of the debate. So you get to say once that I want to genocide children. After you say that I'm exiting the debate. I'm not interested. That's not a debate as far as I'm concerned. So take it or leave it. There's no point in continuing a conversation where it's just false accusations. They're just trying to, and that's how they can claim, oh, we always win debates because no one wants to debate us because you accuse them. It's just accusations. It's not a debate cannot end up in or cannot contain accusations. You need to convince me. Your job is to convince me. So I asked him, what's the point of a debate? Well, there's many points. Okay. Yeah. His intent in a debate is to falsely accuse the other guy so that no one wants to debate them because they don't debate. This is fake debating. If you falsely accuse the other guy, that's fake debating. So you just, whenever someone starts doing that, you need, or even before, certainly when they start doing it, but even when you start the debate, you need to warn them. Listen, my experience with vegans and with other, moral high ground holders is, you're going to go for the, You're going to go for the throat. So you're not going to, if you're not here to convince me, right? The question is, are you here to convince me of your truth? If you're not here to convince me of your truth, then we're not entering this debate. You want to convince me, I want to convince you. If you're going to accuse me of crimes, then we're done. So letting you know. But but that's all they do. I mean, vegans are just, all they do is logical fallacies. They're just logical fallacists. They don't debate. And for some peculiar reason, they still feel morally superior. It's like, we don't murder children. Everybody else murders children. That's it. I mean, you could, if that's the claim they would make, fine, we can deal with it, but it's not. It's like, when they talk to you, oh, you just want to genocide children. And, with their sound bites. So it's not about being able to debate. It's about being able to deal with a bad faith, what they call interlocutor, a bad faith counterparty, a bad faith partner, debate partner.
Because they do it with pretext dollars. And if you do,
let me see this. Oh, pretext.
To some extent, a blind pool of risk. And by the way, so now why do we do that? Well, I don't want to get into the entire history of it, but the basic idea is that employers versus employees have an advantage in buying health insurance. If an employer buys health insurance, the health insurance premiums are tax deductible. If you as an individual buy health insurance, your health insurance premiums are not tax deductible. So you have a huge advantage in letting the employer buy the health insurance for you, because they do it with pre-tax dollars. And if you did it, you would be doing it with after-tax dollars. So again, that provides a massive incentive for employers to buy the health insurance. And a lot of employees don't even buy insurance. They have insurance companies administer what they call insurance, and they're really, in a sense, self-insuring. They're creating reserves, financial reserves, and it's their money that is paying out. It's not the insurance company that pays the money out for your healthcare, but the company does. So the fact that we have an employer-based system, the fact that our system, by regulation, is not an insurance system, but a pooling of risk, a redistributive system, is—
How is that not an insurance?
At the core, I'd say one of the two cores of really all the problems that we have today in healthcare. The other is that about 50%, actually it's over 50% of all healthcare expenditures are spent by the government. Basically, the government covers, through its so-called insurance policies, right, Medicare, Medicaid, the government covers 150 million Americans. I mean, people say you don't have a single-payer healthcare system. Well, 150 million Americans have a government healthcare system. That's about 90 million people. 90, I didn't realize the number was this big. 90 million people on Medicaid. Sorry, yes, Medicaid. That is healthcare for people who cannot afford insurance. This is supposed to be healthcare for the poor. That includes CHIP, which is the healthcare for children whose parents cannot afford to buy insurance. And so that's 90 million and 60-something million, so it's over 150 million. 60-something million people on Medicare, which is basically everybody over the age of 65. No matter whether you can afford it or not, everybody over 65 gets Medicare. And that number will grow to over 70 million by 2032. So we have a government-run healthcare system that basically provides healthcare funding for 150 million Americans out of 350 million. So it's a big chunk. It's not quite half, but it's 40%, 35, 40% is all government, and 50% of the expenditures. Because when you spend the most on healthcare, when you're old, that's all covered by government. All covered by government. All covered by government, right? Because Medicare pays for 65 and over. So you have a situation where 50 cents of every dollar spent on healthcare, actually more than 50 cents, is government expenditure. So we don't have a private system. We have a pseudo insurance that's not an insurance system, and we have a government system. Those are the two alternatives. And the government system dictates a lot because it's massive. So let's take Medicare. Medicare represents 60.
Come on, he's speaking so slowly. I can't take it.
Let's say 62 million people, all age 65, huge consumers of healthcare. And they're all getting hip replacements and bypass surgeries and cancer treatment, right? And so when doctors and hospitals are billing for all those treatments, they are facing this kind of monopoly. There's only one entity representing people over 65. And so who has the pricing power in that relationship? Well, clearly the government does. So the government can dictate prices. The government can drive prices down on some things. And by driving prices down, for example, doctors get very little money from Medicare for really complicated procedures. It's sometimes hard to believe how little money they get per procedure from Medicare. And hospitals have to negotiate with Medicare, and Medicare drives prices down. And Now, hospitals and doctors and everybody else still have to make a living. They still have to make a profit. And there's a sense in which they make a profit off of driving up the price for private health, private insurance, for the insurance that's outside the Medicare system. So you get a system in which
the poor, I mean, the young are paying for the old, but the young are usually poor and the old are usually rich. So it's the poor funding the rich. That's the American system.
private so-called insurance is subsidizing Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah, the poor are subsidizing the rich, basically.
And of course, one of the big controversies right now is should Medicare and Medicaid be able to negotiate drug prices? Because if they can negotiate drug prices, they can lower drug prices dramatically, like European countries have, and like Canadian system has, by basically, being the dominant buyer of a drug in the economy. And if they can drive down prices dramatically, either drug companies now, they profitability plummets, which reduces the availability of capital for them, which reduces R&D and all the other consequences, or drug sales to private individuals through their so-called insurance policies have to go up. Something has to give, right? Money has to come from somewhere. And if the government's going to squeeze drug.
So when you debate a vegan, it has to be about eggs. Like, let's debate eggs, because as soon as you mention killing animals, then they want to kill humans. So just discuss eggs. Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, are you a vegan?
No,
What's up? What do you want to talk about?
nothing much. I'm just jumping around.
Okay. Are you a leftist, right wing?
I'd say I'm a leftist, but that has a bunch of different connotations on Discord.
Are you a communist?
No, connotations. It has do you know the word connotations?
No, I know, but I'm asking, are you a communist? Like, I'm asking.
Oh, no, no, I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry. I misunderstood the question. No, I'm I would say I'm a progressive.
Okay. Well, are you a socialist? Like, where do you
No.
stand on
I'm
economics?
mixed economy, just a normal dude.
Okay, but okay, I think mixed economy, good. I'm an extreme capitalist. Like, everything should be,
Okay.
everything should be privatized.
Okay.
So you think the U.S. health system needs, like, it's not the best in the world?
Yeah, it's not the best in the world.
Okay, what would you change in the U.S. health system?
Well, I think the legislation that's most going around that I like is in Democratic circles. It's called Eagle Care. It's kind of a mix of the current privatization plus additions of like public options and stuff like that. Yeah, like more like the Canadian model.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
that's kind of
what
what I like right now.
Wait a minute, hold on. I don't know what a public option is, and I don't know what the Canadian system is. But what don't you like about the U.S. health system?
We pay a lot for very little, so
who's we?
It's very
Who's we?
Americans.
I mean, what age? I mean,
So
when you
basically we pay 3 times as much for the same types of outcomes as most of the OECD.
Well, depending on who. So if you're poor, you don't pay, and if you're old,
No. Us as in America.
I understand, but in America, if you're poor and you cannot afford, then you don't pay, and if you're old, you don't pay. So 2 groups don't pay.
Actually, you do. We have Medicaid programs, and Obamacare is, or the Affordable Care Act, if you're familiar with that, actually provides insurance for free, health insurance for free for low and income people. The problem is, even at that level, we pay as a society 3 to 4 times as much for the same outcomes at the end of the day.
Hold on. So 1 second. Let's separate variables. You agree that if you're poor, you don't pay in the U.S.
No. Stop with the poor and health and whatever.
What do you
I'm
mean?
just saying, as a society.
I don't.
Right?
I
We pay 3 times as much
okay.
for the same
but
outcomes as all other OECDs.
yeah, but I'm separating variables, right?
You shouldn't. I'm
I
just.
should.
I'm just.
What do you mean?
Well, this is actually very good that I can teach you that you should not be doing that. You should actually look at the societal levels and the distribution of outcomes and the distribution of what we pay for healthcare, and basically say, you know what? At the end of the day, we pay a lot more, and we are much less efficient at healthcare with the same outcomes as other places are. So that's the way you should look at it.
What do you mean should? I mean, there's many ways you. Oh, he said that's the way you should look at it, and he left. Hmm. Okay, so as he said, he is a leftist. That is what leftists do. They make their statement and they leave. That's how they win. They get the last word. Get the last word in. That's good. Always a good thing.
Companies, as so many people want it. The Biden administration has already started process towards that, and Trump has indicated he would like to continue. Then, drug companies are going to be, profitability is going to be squeezed completely, and given the cost of drugs and the length of development and the expense of developing them, what happens then? What happens then?
So in my debate with the vegan, like every time I got him cornered, he just switched the debate to a different topic. Like he wouldn't. Like when I was finishing him, he just wouldn't continue, and he came up with a different question, different topic, and I asked him to go back. No, you can't go back. No, he is going to ask me a question, and any word I said other than answering his "got your question," he would cut me off. He wouldn't let me speak. And since I'm always chasing these people to debate them, so I have to accommodate his misconduct. So that's and then they can claim, oh, we always win debates because because everyone has to chase us to debate, and when they finally get a chance to debate us, we can. Hello,
Hello.
what's up, Jihad? Wait, Jihad is based? Wait, what? That's it? That was fast.
So, the fact that the government is such a big buyer of healthcare services is a major
It's a distortion.
problem, which basically distorts the pricing of healthcare in the United States. As a consequence of that, what you see is massive cross-subsidization. Healthy subsidizing the sick. We talked about that. The young subsidizing the old. We've talked about that. Again, we're all subsidizing the Medicaid that the old get after 65. Those of us who are not yet 65, I'm not quite there. I'm almost there. And insurance companies, or the so-called insurance framework, it's not the companies, it's the people who pay the insurance, are subsidizing government programs. Huge amount of cross-subsidization. And the old get after 65. Those of us who are not yet 65, I'm not quite there. I'm almost there. And insurance companies, or the so-called insurance framework, it's not the companies, it's the people who pay the insurance, are subsidizing government programs. Huge amount of cross-subsidization, and it's really hard to keep track of it. I mean, I don't know that anybody has in terms of the actual numbers, but keeping track of it is almost impossible because it's going on all the time, and it's super complex. Now, top all of that off with the fact that healthcare is heavily regulated. So these pseudo-insurance policies, what they offer, how they offer it, is unbelievably regulated. What you can and cannot offer, what kind of policies, the kind of deductibles, the kind of coverages. Now, most of that regulation, not all of it, but most of that regulation is done at the state level, but that means there are 50 different types of regulation. It also means that because of that, if I live in California, I cannot buy a health insurance policy from Nevada. I can only buy it in California because health insurance is regulated at the state level. And you cannot buy across state lines health insurance. So there's no real competition. So it's heavily regulated at the insurance level. I mean, every aspect of what you can buy. I mean, if you look at the Obamacare exchanges, the policies all look very similar. And they look very similar because there's only a range in which they can play around. They have to cover, I don't know, psychological care. They have to cover pregnancy. They have to cover all kinds of things. In California, alternative healthcare, like acupuncture has to be covered, all kinds of stuff like that. And then the deductibles cannot be too high. You cannot get catastrophic health insurance. It's very difficult to find a state where you can actually just buy catastrophic health insurance.
What?
A range.
I'm not fully concentrating.
Which they can play around. They have to cover, I don't know, across state lines, health insurance. So there's no real competition.
That's terrible. So it's not free and not free and not free, and then it ends up being such a terrible dysfunctional system, and then the left can complain, "Oh, it's so terrible. We need like Europe. Europe is much better because we destroyed the American system. So the European is much better."
So it's heavily regulated at the insurance level. I mean, every aspect of what you can buy. I mean, if you look at the Obamacare exchanges, the policies all look very similar. And they look very similar because there's only a range in which they can play around. They have to cover, I don't know, psychological care. They have to cover pregnancy. They have to cover all kinds of things. In California, alternative healthcare, like acupuncture has to be covered. All kinds of stuff like that.
Acupuncture is a complete garbage. It's nothing.
And the deductibles cannot be too high.
There's no scientific basis for acupuncture.
You cannot get catastrophic health insurance. It's very difficult to find a state where you can actually just buy catastrophic health insurance. We'll get to that. That's insurance. But then everything about the delivery of healthcare is regulated. Hospitals, massive regulations on hospitals. We saw that during COVID. And isn't it interesting?
But you know, when you travel, you end up paying a lot of money. It's not cheap. Like when you're outside of the United States and you want to buy health insurance, it's very expensive. It's basically, it costs the same as if you're not in. It's very expensive. It's hundreds of dollars per month. It's basically $1,000 a month.
Interesting that given the failure during COVID, the lack of capacity, the lack of communication, the bad policies coming down from government vis-a-vis COVID, that healthcare, there was really no reform. There's really no lessons learned. Not just about how to deal with the pandemic, but maybe there's something in our healthcare system that is not working right. For example, you remember there were hospital bed shortages. Why is that? Well, it turns out state governments regulate how many beds you can have in a hospital. And if you want to expand, you have to get permission because they're looking at something about competition within a particular band. In the 1950s, there was passed a law that said that within every certain radius, there has to be a hospital. So lots and lots of hospitals were built. Some of that has gone away. But again, where hospitals are, how many beds they have, what kind of services, for example, emergency services or not, they can provide, all regulated, all controlled by government. Heavily regulated. And of course, what a doctor can prescribe you, what kind of drugs are available, the whole issue of drugs, massively regulated, massively controlled by government, the FDA.
Crazy. The government should have nothing to say about none of this. Hospitals, beds, medication. I should be able to do whatever I feel like. What's this nonsense?
And the whole process of getting drugs to you, the whole reason it's so expensive and it takes so long is because of the extent of regulations. And then finally, well, not finally, because I think there's a lot more that I'm not even getting to, but there's the supply of medical staff is regulated, is controlled. Doctors, nurses, people who work in hospitals, their licensing laws vary across states, but are pretty stringent. There are restrictions on funding for medical schools that can increase the number of doctors or decrease the number of doctors depending on decisions that are made in terms of funding medical.
I wish somebody would build like a floating city, but you can just go to Mexico. I think if you just go to Mexico, certainly all your dental work you can get in Mexico for much less because ultimately everything is cheaper in Mexico. But I think you can just go to Mexico and do all your any medical attention you get in Mexico, I think would be much cheaper.
Medical schools. And then there's immigration, the fact that doctors who are highly qualified, who have been trained in the best universities in the world outside.
But like you can compare everything to plastic surgery. Plastic surgery is really not that expensive, but that's because it's private.
United States and
or dental is not that expensive. Again, that's because it's private.
Licensed in those other countries are not allowed to work in the United States and cannot get immigration visas. So it's very difficult to get immigration visas to come to the US to work here on a permanent basis. So we've got a financing system that is.
We should demand that for each H-1B visa that Trump wants to import, he should import a doctor, and then we'll see how quickly H-1B goes away. Overnight, H-1B is going to disappear from the dictionary.
It's completely messed up because it's not real insurance. And it creates moral hazard, which means overconsumption. It creates distortions of pricing where we as consumers don't know and don't care how much any procedure costs. We just don't care. As compared, for example, to LASIK, which is not covered by insurance, where we do care how much it costs. What is the other one? And prices have come down, by the way. And
dental and plastic
surgery, which is not typically covered by insurance, and where prices of us come down. And there's massive innovation in both LASIK or health, eye health, different aspects of improving your eyesight. Massive improvements.
Like dental, people pay for everything in dental. That's why it's a normal price. It's not the prices are affordable.
Costs, and certainly that's true of plastic surgery. Lots of options.
Think about the fact that the dentist has to work. But even dentists, I don't think you can import dentists. So even dentistry is still the price is higher than it could be if we would give H-1B visas to dentists.
Competition. And we as consumers get to decide what to do, who to do it with, and so on. All right, so I've laid out kind of the system the way it is. Now, this is just a fraction of it, right? We haven't got into, how drugs are delivered through these, entities that sit between pharma and your pharmaceutical and your pharmacy. I just forgot the acronym just slipped out of my mind, right? PBS maybe. Anyway, and they sit in between. I think most of them are owned now by insurance companies. I think one may be owned by one of the pharmacies. But these entities that are supposed to make things more efficient, but have created massive complexity within the drug delivery and drug pricing. We haven't talked about all the other ways in which regulations drive and drive all kinds of distortions and perversions within the healthcare system. Pharmacy benefits managers, PBMs, not PBS, PBMs. Thank you. The complexity is massive. Now, a free market would be pretty complex. We'd have actually more options, but it would be simpler for you as a consumer. All right, what should be our goal in reforming a healthcare system?
That's like saying the iPhone is unregulated, so it's more complex, but it's less expensive. It's much more complex. I mean, there's new iPhones and different phones and different services, and yeah, it's much more complex, but it's simpler. It's simpler to consume, and it's not that expensive. It's affordable.
We want a system that provides consumers with choices regarding.
We don't need to buy. I mean, you can buy insurance for your iPhone, but usually, I don't think people usually buy insurance for the iPhone.
And cost.
I actually got insurance from my AirPods, and I used it. It actually was very useful. They replaced it multiple times. It was really good, really smart.
That maximizes individual health outcomes and avoids both personal and government bankruptcy. Right. So a healthcare system that provides consumers of healthcare with choices regarding treatment and cost, maximizes individual health outcome, and avoids both personal and government bankruptcy. And add to this, maximizes the freedom of doctors to exercise their profession based on their judgment. And that's something we also haven't talked that much about, is the fact that so much of the system, so much of what doctors are left doing and what is covered and what is not covered and what is permitted and what is not permitted, and so on is dictated by Medicare, Medicaid, and big insurance companies. And so much of that is just, it's much easier just to regimen in certain conventional medical treatments. And
I'd like to know, why do you think the US health system is the best?
If you reach the
one of the arguments.
Right. So if you reach the age of 70, then the life expectancy in the US is the highest. That's I would say that's the ultimate example. That's the ultimate argument. The US has the highest.
This is not.
What?
Yeah, this is this is not what people worry about. The thing is, it's expensive. There is more private hospitals than some public institutions like that. And if I were to call the ambulance, it'd be expensive. It'd be expensive, and that's the problem.
So health care in the United States,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, if you're poor, it doesn't cost anything, and if you're old, it doesn't cost anything.
But this is not true. What do you mean? People can get it. What was that?
After the age of 65, it's free, and if you're low income, it's free.
But it's not free. What do you mean? People become homeless because of that. People spend their whole money on paying the bills, the medical bills.
Right. So I don't think you can become homeless. So what happens is, let's say you're rich and you need a medical procedure that is expensive, and you end up right. So you're because you're rich, so you're not covered by Medicaid and Medicare. Let's say you're young and wealthy, so Medicare and Medicaid don't apply. So you have to pay out of pocket. Let's say your insurance doesn't cover it, whatever, for some reason. So you have to pay for it. So because you have money, you have to pay the money that you have until you have no money, and then Medicaid kicks in, and then the government covers you. But first, you need to become poor in order for the government to cover you. So you can never die. You can be, I don't think you can become homeless because you can still own a home and for the government to take care of you. But it's called Obamacare, whatever. The contract with the government is that after you die, basically they take everything you own. So you cannot, your children will not inherit the home. So you cannot leave any inheritance, basically. So you can still live in your home, but they're gonna recoup all the costs from your inheritance, and they're not gonna tell you ahead of time how much. But that's the situation. So
Yeah, I got your point. All right.
yeah, there's mythology. People believe myths. It's easier to debate vegans, but vegans run away. I wish it were easier to debate vegans. Let me see.
And be conservative about, not trying new stuff, not being radical in how one delivers services, because we've got a particular way in which this is financed. So, for example, the Piratia model, where you're not really paying him like you do a you pay him a retainer, if you will, or the concierge doctor model, is not covered by these insurance policies. Most of us pay insurance, and then we have these concierge doctors that we have to pay out of pocket. It's double the money.
What's a concierge doctor? What is he talking about? What's the Peter Thiel model? What is he talking about?
We also haven't talked that much about the fact that so much of the system, so much of what doctors are left doing and what is covered and what is not covered and what is permitted and what is not permitted, and so on, is dictated by Medicaid and big insurance companies. And so much of that is just, it's much easier just to regiment in certain conventional medical treatments and be conservative about, not trying new stuff, not being radical in how one delivers services, because we've got a particular way in which this is financed. So, for example, the Piratia model, where you're not really
Peter Thiel model. Okay.
paying him like you do a you pay him a retainer, if you will, or the concierge doctor model, is not covered by
What's the concierge doctor model?
these insurance policies. Most of us pay insurance, and then we have these concierge doctors that we have to pay out of pocket. It's double the money. It's just overly cumbersome, overly complex, and way overly expensive. I have so many redundancies in the healthcare coverage that I have. It is ridiculous because I have concierge doctors. I have a very expensive health insurance policy because anyway, I have a very expensive health insurance policy, and I pay out of pocket for a lot of things, and yet I have this expensive insurance policy that just doesn't cover all the things that I value and that I pay out of pocket. So, this healthcare system we have, why do we have it? Why is the healthcare system the way it is? Why is government so immersed in healthcare? And why have we taken decisions away?
Hello.
What's up? That's me.
Me?
So,
cool.
Yeah, like I talked to you about the healthcare thing. So, like, where are you from?
I'm like American.
You're American, but like, what kind of American?
The good kind. What do you mean by what kind?
I mean, ethnically.
Ethnically, I'm white. I'm a white American.
No.
What do you
mean? No, like not. I'm not asking for your race. I'm asking for your ethnicity.
What do you mean? There's white.
White is a race, rather, and I'm asking ethnicities like Russian, Ukrainian, English,
But I usually don't disclose this information. Why are you asking? Why is it important? How is it significant?
Well, I think it is important because
Mhm.
if you're that strongly stand for the U.S. health system, you have to be you have to somehow represent this country,
What
and being white, like,
represent what?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
What we represent?
You
What?
represent the yes.
The U.S. I represent the U.S. What?
You do.
To
You're from the
whom?
yes.
To whom am I to you? Like I don't understand what you're trying to say. Wh-
You represent the United States. What do you mean? You don't understand?
What do you? I represent the United States. Okay, like to you, like I'm not sure. Okay,
You are
well,
not. You're
mhm.
not from the United States, right?
I was like I was not born in the United States. That's correct.
But do you live in the United States?
Right now I'm traveling, but I am an American citizen, and, you know.
How long have you ever been living in the United States?
I don't disclose that information. It's like
Because you do not sound American. If you didn't understand what I just said, if you didn't understand the word represent, meaning you are not a native English speaker, meaning the amount of time you have lived in this country is not enough for you to be an American. And so all this, like, the US health system is the best, is just word soup. It just has no value at all. To represent this country, well, first of all, look it up. The word itself, represent. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to represent it to someone. You just represent the country. You can just represent something. What do you mean to whom? You just represent it because you're part of that system. You're an American, right? As like Catholics represent Christianity, or like I'm sort of an atheist. I represent atheists, and that's just the way it is. And I would argue that you're probably not an American. If you're an American citizen, that's weird because I don't know. I would say just you don't really deserve your American passport then.
what? What? What are you trying to say? I'm trying to understand where you're taking.
Why do you what do you argue for the US health system? But why if you're not an American?
Okay, it's irrelevant actually if I am or not an American. Like we can.
It's important though. We can debate that. Stop
Mhm.
being a fool. But like it just pointless. It'd be much more interesting if you were to be a real American citizen and we were like, I'm so patriotic. I stand for the US health system. It's the best in the world,
Look,
and so on.
okay, look, if you want to have a discussion about a topic, then we can have that discussion. If you want to involve me personally in the discussion, then I'm sorry, I'm not interested. So it's up to you.
But it is important, no?
Not to
You
me.
don't sound American. I'm not American myself.
Okay,
I'm from Sweden.
I understand. To me, it's important to not discuss me. I'm not interested in discussing my personal life in any respect. So
It's not personal life. I
okay.
I were asking if you're American.
Okay, look, we can discuss a topic, any topic, but that is not me. I'm not interested in bringing me up at all.
Okay, do you support the United States?
Again, I'd rather not discuss me.
I'm not discussing you. I'm asking if you support the United States as a country.
So do I think the United States is the greatest country on the planet? It's one of the greatest countries on the planet, yes. Not Like it depends on what metric you use to measure how good countries are, but the United States is one of the best ones, sure. Not the
Why?
I mean, if you go by the metrics, there's ways to measure how good countries are. So, like in terms of GDP per capita, it's pretty high. In terms of, political freedom, it's high. Like we can go
Political freedom in terms of what? Like, what kind of political freedom are you talking about?
like America has First Amendment, freedom of speech.
What about other countries? They don't have the First Amendment in particular, but they have their own free speeches. Are they like less? Like, are they worse?
I'm saying we can go. I never looked into a list of how to rate different. Again, he left, this guy. Jesus Christ. He leaves mid-sentence. Bring back segregation. That's where he went to. All right.
From individuals. Now, you could take a historical perspective on this and see all the different points in which this was created. Remember, Medicare and Medicaid are relatively new in the 1960s. Somehow old people and poor people survived in the healthcare system up until the 1960s, yet Medicare and Medicaid were instituted. The whole idea of employer-based healthcare was introduced during World War II as a way for companies who faced price controls over wages to increase benefits to their employees as a way of giving them a raise. They weren't allowed to give them an actual raise, so they gave them an added benefit. And then that was institutionalized in the 1950s, early 50s, by giving them a tax deduction on that benefit. But just imagine if during World War II, we didn't have a cap on wages, we didn't have price control on wages, then we wouldn't have maybe the employer-based so-called insurance system that we have today. So a lot of this happens incrementally, slowly. It builds, and then, as we know, every government intervention creates problems that then lead to more government intervention. That creates problems that leads to more government intervention. And we get this stacking on top, one on top of the other. You see this with Medicare and then Medicare Part D. You see this with healthcare, and all the regulations are like this.
Like Elon Musk is supposed to fix these problems. That's his job. To Department of Government Efficiency, that's what I expect him to look into, not bring in foreign workers to replace American workers. This is the hill I'm going to die on. You can F yourself in your face. Unbelievable. Like, finally we have someone who makes some sense, and we have to lose him to let's bring in replacement population. Jesus.
I have great examples on this from finance.
Like, there's plenty to fix. Like, you can come up. I think Republicans right now have complete control. Hello, Edward. How are
Oh,
you?
hey, sorry, just jumping around.
Yeah, you were here before. I know. What's up?
Nothing much. I'm just jumping around. I forgot I was in here.
So you don't want to talk?
I think we said what we got to say, right? So we're good to go.
The same is true in healthcare. But what is the excuse given for why the government plays such a big role in healthcare? Why it basically covers the expenses of 150 million Americans? Why it's very difficult if you want to buy individual healthcare? Why the government makes it so difficult for you? And why the choices are so constrained, particularly at the insurance level, right? Insurance level, we have very, very limited options. I will say this: Americans want choices, and one way you can tell that we want choices is the failure of the kind of the PPO model versus the PPP model. The PPO model was a model in which you paid less for the so-called insurance, but you got.
What's PPO and PPP? What he's bringing up acronyms that he's not defining. That's terrible.
Your choices in terms of doctors and hospitals and facilities to treat you. Sorry, that's the HMO model. And then that's HMO model. You get fewer choices in doctors, fewer choices
What is HMO? What's going on?
in hospitals, fewer choices in places to treat you. The PPO model is wide choices. And while the HMO model was popular, 20 something years ago, maybe 30 years ago, it pretty much shrunk dramatically because people didn't choose it. People didn't like it. They didn't like restricted choices. People want choices. So the government keeps finding ways to reduce the choices while giving us the pretense that we still have them. Giving us the pretense we still have them. And why? Well, I hear these arguments all the time. Why we can't have more free markets in healthcare? There's asymmetrical information. You don't know what's good for you. You can't judge a good doctor and a bad doctor. You can't judge
Terrible.
procedure you should take. There's too much. The difference in knowledge between you and the doctor or you and the providers of healthcare is too large. It's just too large. Healthcare is too expensive, and if we don't provide it as a government, you'll all go bankrupt. Healthcare will just collapse if the government doesn't provide it for you. There's no mechanism. The market does not have a mechanism by which to allow you. So people just die, right? Poor people won't get any healthcare. They'll just die. Old people will just not be able to afford. Who can afford cancer treatment? It costs millions of dollars. Some cancer treatments. So it's too expensive, and it's way too complicated. So which goes to the asymmetric information. In other words, you're not smart enough, most of you, and you're not responsible enough A lot of you won't buy insurance. You'll buy the wrong insurance. You'll buy too little insurance. Won't get any healthcare. Or you and the providers of healthcare. It's too large. It's just too large.
Thanks. I'd like to discuss the part about axioms again because in that part of the conversation, I do not really know what's being communicated. Trapped inside a couple of days because of snowstorm. Because of global warming snowstorms.
Healthcare is too expensive, and if we don't provide it as a government, you'll all go bankrupt. Healthcare will just collapse. The government doesn't provide it for you. There's no mechanism. The market does not have a mechanism by which to allow you. So people just die, right? Poor people won't get any healthcare.
People will die. People will die. Oh my God.
Old people will just not be able to afford. Who can afford cancer treatment? It costs millions of dollars. So it's too expensive and it's way too complicated. So which goes to the asymmetric information. In other words, you're not smart enough, most of you, and you're not responsible enough. A lot of you won't buy insurance. You'll buy the wrong insurance. You'll buy too little insurance. Whatever. And then finally, the profit motive. The profit motive is a really bad incentive in healthcare. It's going to lead people to try to, like everywhere. How can you trust the profit motive? The profit motive is about greed. And greed will lead people
the profit motive, Jesus,
to undertreat you, as if that happens anywhere else in markets. Like in food, you get rotten food because of the farmers' greed. Food is privatized. It's not provided by the government. Do we get lack of variety in food because of the farmers' greed? It's completely nuts. Completely nuts. So profit is an incentivizer to increase quality, actually reduce costs. It's to innovate. Profit is to provide great service. That's what the profit motive actually does, but people don't believe that. And then finally, and I think this is important, healthcare now is perceived as a right. I must have it because I need it. Because we all need it. We all need it. We all require healthcare at some point in our lives. Therefore, we must have it. There's a moral responsibility for it. There's a moral responsibility to take care of anybody, everybody. And therefore, the government must step in because we wouldn't fulfill our moral responsibility otherwise. Altruism demands it. And ultimately, it boils down to a really emotional argument. And the consequence of this, of course, costs are indeed high. Some people get service denial, but generally, we're not exposed to the best alternatives necessarily. You need to invest a lot in figuring out what's going on. If you are sick and you need treatment, complete separation of customer from prices is massive moral hazard. There's just a lot of unnecessary complexity and opaqueness and confusion, not just among customers, patients, but among doctors as well. I mean, think about how much time and effort doctors today put into the paperwork. How many people they have to hire to fill out paperwork? Paperwork, everything's paperwork to get reimbursed. And the time wasted waiting for reimbursement.
They should have, wow, this is going to be resolved hopefully by apps and AI and separate providers that will just take care of all the paperwork. I keep hearing this. AI can do so much of this, and this should reduce a lot of the costs, the nonsensical overhead.
And the effort exists. So many doctors get MBAs, not so much because they want to grow their business, but because they just need to survive. They need to know some accounting. They need to know some stuff because it's become so complicated. So the real destructive consequences, and a lot of this has to do with destructive consequences to doctors. And I think doctors feel like they become bureaucrats. The producers of healthcare feel like they become bureaucrats. The producers of healthcare feel like they're not being compensated appropriately to what they're doing. And a lot of people leave healthcare. The people entering healthcare have a lower quality generally. Healthcare is less rewarding. It's as it becomes more bureaucratized. And again, the talent pool is smaller. Fewer people go in for the right reasons, and all kinds of distortions in medical schools and so on. But just from a purely economic perspective, fewer people are going to go in because more bureaucratic, less opportunity to innovate, and expensive. Medical school is expensive, and salaries, income stagnant. And then think about drug companies and think about medical device companies and think about all of that, and the degree to which we regulate and control all of that. To that degree, we don't get massive innovations, new products. I mean, it's stunning and amazing, and heartwarming, and just amazing that we get as much innovation as we do. I mean, we get huge amounts of innovation, and then imagine what we could get if we didn't control and regulate and mandate and so on. And I'm not even getting, one of the issues with healthcare that we should discuss, but we won't discuss today, is medical research, which is government dominated and is far from optimal. And it's a whole other topic. I think about the NHS and NIH, National Institute for Health, and all the money that the government gives out in grants and so on. Not an efficient, productive method or outcome. All right. So we described the system as it is, at least parts of it. Again, I'm sure there are big holes here. Let's talk about what we can do to fix it. And I think that there are two things that have to happen in order to fix.
We need to free the healthcare system and to free the health insurance system.
The system. And the main thing one has to do is to reduce the involvement of government in healthcare. To reduce the involvement of government in healthcare in every dimension. So we need to reduce the amount of government regulation of healthcare. We need to reduce the amount of government regulation of insurance, health insurance. We need to reduce the involvement of government in actually funding healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid. Okay. Each one of those is huge. Each one of those, all to some extent interrelated. And of course, we need to change tax policy to change the kind of incentives in terms of who's buying insurance. So, and I'd say
this is good that he's making these videos because, like, at the end of the day, Elon Musk is going to be needing this information. So this analysis is good.
That's part of regulation of health insurance. So we need to reduce and eliminate regulation of healthcare providers. We need to reduce and eliminate regulation of health insurance. And we need to reduce and ultimately eliminate government as a provider of healthcare, direct healthcare financing. Now, all of that is a lot. We're talking about 17.6% of GDP. We're talking about the largest single industry out there. Again, employs
no way. Did he say 70.6% of the GDP? I don't believe it.
We're talking about 17.6% of GDP.
Oh, 17. Okay.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about the largest single industry out there. Again, employs millions and millions of people and spends $4 trillion. And we want to do it all in a way that does not bankrupt people, that does not have people who are sick dying in the streets, that does not disrupt medical innovation, that does not disrupt the ability of doctors to do their job. So we want to make the transition as smooth as possible. Not that there are no costs. Whenever you have a system like this and you're trying to make it more free, there are costs of transitioning because so much infrastructure is built around this. The disrupting it is going to, some hospitals might go out of business, some doctors might go, some insurance companies might go. There's going to be a repositioning of the whole system. All right, so let's think about how to do this. Let's take step by step. Step one is we want to phase out employer-provided healthcare. We want to get employers out of the business of healthcare, out of funding it, financing it, buying it, whatever.
If hypothetically someone else were interested in debating you, would you be able to turn on your brain for that one? That's a good start. That's a I'll try. My God, why are vegans so mean and mean-spirited? Jesus. Unbelievable. And then they wonder, why does everyone love vegans so much? Why do people love vegans? Jesus Christ.
Ever, out of it. And we want to move to a system where individuals own their own health insurance policies. And we'll see that if we move towards individually owned insurance policies.
You know what I can do? Like, as long as no one is showing up here, let's just go here. I'll be here waiting for you. If anyone wants to talk.
That'll also be an opportunity to move towards real insurance. We want to, at the same time, completely deregulate the insurance marketplace. Now, I don't know how you do this because the insurance marketplace is governed state by state. Now, you could federalize it. You could say, states, you cannot regulate insurance anymore. It's going to happen at the state.
Oh my God. Each state regulates. Oh my God. Oh my God. So you would actually need... I think the only, I don't know. I mean, I guess you need to pass a federal law that states cannot. I don't think you need to. I'm not sure you need to because I think there's supposed to be competition between the states. So people will just move. Like everyone is moving to Florida because Florida is so free, and Texas. Everything is moving to Florida and Texas because they're so free. So that's basically what should be happening. But first you need to get the federal government out of the way, I would say. one step at a time. Right now we have Elon who can help us, so that should be what he's trying. Right? He has power at the federal level right now, so that's what we should concentrate on.
It's going to happen. We're not going to regulate insurance. Here are a few standards by which you can regulate, but that means 90% of
I guess you could pass a federal law that makes it illegal for states to legislate health insurance or health care.
regulating goes away. So you can't mandate what coverage, you can't mandate what deductibles, you can't mandate all these things. Or one alternative, if you don't want to completely trample on so-called on the states, is to have a federal law that basically says you can buy insurance in any state and create competition among the states on who can deregulate the fastest. Who can deregulate the fastest? So you can have competition between states. So I'm open to either one of those. Ideally, I would love to see all state regulations go away. But the regulations about the kind of policies, the type of policies, what can be offered. And maybe a federal law could do that. And if it can, then it should. I'm not sure the Supreme Court would accept it, but it should try to get rid of state-level regulations. In that sense, it should federalize it. It was done in banking. There were state-level regulations that were basically nationalized and eliminated. So we need to do that. How do you move to individually owned healthcare policies? Well, you need to stop giving companies a tax deduction on healthcare expenditures. They cannot spend money. They cannot get a tax deduction. And then offer individuals a tax deduction, at least in the short run. Like this could be a policy that is phased out over time, because I don't particularly like giving people deductions on taxes, because I like really, really simple taxes with no deductions. But to solve the problem that we have, and maybe this would also be done in education, for a decade, let's say, you give people the ability to deduct their insurance premiums from their taxes at the individual level, not at the corporate level, not at the business level. Businesses have to pay taxes, cannot deduct insurance costs. And thus you shift the incentive to individuals. And for example, what about individuals who don't itemize, give them a deduction in spite of that? There are ways to do it, right? One way to do that is to have a medical saving account. Medical saving accounts allow you to put money pre-tax into an account and use that money for healthcare, including insurance. And now you're not having to deduct anything from your taxes other than the money.
Yeah, no, he's complicating the system. That's the last thing I would want to happen.
That you put into that account, which is not going to be taxed. That's a simple way to do this. So medical saving accounts should become universal. Everybody should have availability to them.
No.
They should be unlimited.
No pre-tax. Everything should be post-tax.
Make decisions about how much
the tax system should be flat. That's one of the first things to do. Flatten the tax system.
They want to put into a medical saving account. It doesn't make sense to put in, more than what you're going to use for healthcare. You should be able to roll them over from year to year, so this can become basically a way for you to save money for healthcare emergencies or for expected significant healthcare costs that come in the future. And you should be able to use that money to buy health insurance. Now, with a system like this, where I have a vehicle in which I can save money for healthcare expenditures, a system where I can do this in a pre-tax manner, a system where I own the insurance policy that I'm buying, and I own this account where I'm saving money to cover my expenses, in a sense, self-insuring. What it makes sense for individuals to do, and what I think individuals would do, is actually buy real insurance. Not a risk pool, but real insurance.
What's the difference?
And what that insurance would be insurance against catastrophic loss.
Isn't that risk pool?
This would be insurance that would cover you if you had to have surgery, or if you had a heart attack, or if you had cancer, or it would cover...
Yeah, but those companies that would sell that insurance plan would love for you to maintain your health on a daily basis. They would want you either way to lose weight and exercise and eat right and get normal checkups.
Certain expenses if you develop diabetes, maybe not all the expenses.
So they would want to cover your basic costs.
Maybe not the recurring expenses that you can expect.
The point is, we don't want to get involved in these things. We want to let the free market do its magic.
But some of the dramatic big ones. So, I mean, it would be a competitive market in which different companies would offer different coverages, and the market would figure out what makes sense and what didn't make sense. You can imagine insurance policies that, this is the way you could take care of, a pre-existing condition. Insurance policies that cover you for life. Priced it today based on your health today, had a payment schedule into it for the rest of your life, and that covered just these catastrophic losses. You can imagine all kinds of things developing, right? Insurance policies that encouraged you to take care of yourself, gave you discounts when you exercise, and actually maybe insurance policies that actually tracked your fitness monitors, that actually encourage you to wear them. I know privacy concerns. I don't care about privacy. If I'm going to get a discount, I want my insurance company to know how much I exercise. And maybe, you can even take photos of what you eat. I don't know. But the point is, you get innovation, you get competition, and you get real insurance. And you get insurance that does its job. If it was good insurance, it would do its job to lower your risk of actually incurring the catastrophic risk, right? So fire insurance company might come to the house. They certainly do this with big expenses like industrial insurance, and say, look, we would actually lower your cost of insurance if you did these 5 things to make your home more fireproof. For example, I remember we changed the type of tiling on our roof and the kind of insulation in our attic that actually lowered our cost of home insurance. Why? Because the house was less likely to burn down. Well, imagine again that insurance companies we're willing to lower your health insurance because let's just say you're taking a statin that lowers your ApoB to a level that makes it very unlikely that you'll get a heart attack. And the insurance company might say, really good. Now it turns out that statins cost almost nothing, but some of these other mechanisms to lower cholesterol are quite expensive. I mean, the insurance company might even say, yeah, we'll cover that cost because we're going to have you as a client for many years, and it lowers the chances of you actually needing this catastrophic. I don't know. My point is, you get innovative products. Hospitals might provide insurance. Doctors' associations might provide different types of insurance. I mean, we might be able to move into what Peter Thiel calls healthcare 3.0, which is a healthcare much more focused on prevention than on treatment, and to fund and that orients everybody and everything and the incentives, both of the doctors and the customers, towards prevention rather than towards just treating you when you're sick. So once we get employers out of it, and we get individuals to buy their own policies, and we provide them with an incentive to put money aside for their healthcare through a tax deduction, MSA, medical savings accounts, and an incentive to buy some kind of insurance, but any kind of insurance, you sold a huge part of the American healthcare system. And then I am buying healthcare. I'm going to my doctor and saying, okay, how much does it cost to fuse my back if I need back fusion? What are the alternatives? How much do they cost? What are the outcomes? All right, let's sit down and figure out what I should do. What is insurance going to cover? Will insurance cover any of it? And if so, what of it will it cover, given its catastrophic nature to this account? All of that would then go into decision making. Now, this requires people to actually be engaged, to be involved. Or, just like it could be that just like we have financial advisors where we say, I don't want to think about how to invest my money. It's too difficult. I'm going to hire somebody. I'm going to do my research and hire the best person I can, and then basically they're going to invest my money, and they're going to determine how it's going to be invested. Maybe we have healthcare consultants, healthcare advisors, who, when we have healthcare decisions that are really complex and time consuming, we hire them to come in and provide us with all the facts and help us make the right decisions. I don't know. That's the beauty of markets. Whenever there are asymmetries of information, and they're huge in healthcare, no question. Whole sectors of the economy develop, new professions develop in order to mitigate the asymmetry. So one can only imagine the kind of products, the kind of innovations that would happen to deal with complexities of healthcare. And maybe that consultant is simply our physician, our general physician. Maybe that's generally part of their role, is to help us navigate. It's to organize what specialists are saying, and it's to sit down with us and say, okay, here are the options, and here's what's possible. And one would expect, given that I am paying, that they would start treating me a lot better, spending more time with me, and that the general physician would become much more of a consultant, coordinating all aspects of my care with specialists and hospitals and clinics, than just a guy I go see for a general checkup and go to get a couple of aspirins when I'm not feeling well. So imagine your primary care physician becoming that, a real consultant to you, somebody who is really there to work with you through a healthcare plan, how to avoid disease, how to stay healthy, and then when something does happen, how to maneuver, how to deal with the complexities of the system. All right, so we phase out. You got to phase out and you got to do it over time. You can't do it all at once. I would start by offering MSAs to everybody, and then I would basically put a sunset a year from now on the tax deductibility of health costs. So first, offer them MSAs. First, give everybody an opportunity to open a medical saving account. Then tell employers, you're not going to get the tax deduction anymore. You're not going to get the tax deduction anymore. You got a year, 2 years to adjust, to adapt, and to educate your employees to the fact that they will get a better deal if they buy insurance through the MSA, through the medical saving account.
Hello?
Yeah, what's up?
Okay. So I was curious about the last portion of our conversation, because when we were talking about axioms, that part was confusing for me.